Welcome into a brand new episode of Still a Hero, powered by USAA. My name is Randy Miller, and each week we have great conversations with people who have served their country and now are serving their community in even greater ways. So today on Still a Hero, we have President and CEO of Soldiers Angels, a great nonprofit helping out a lot of veterans. Amy Palmer is with us. Amy, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, you guys have done so much. You know, I remember when Soldiers Angels first started, and I mean, the things that you've done since then, and the way that you've grown this organization, it's really been fantastic. How long has Soldiers Angels been around?
Soldiers Angels was started about 23 years ago, right after the initial invasion of Iraq, by the Patton family when one of the Pattons was deployed to Iraq on the early onset of the efforts in Iraq.
And I know that you're an Air Force veteran. I love to ask this question. What inspired you to join the military?
I am an Air Force veteran. I have 10 brothers and sisters, grew up on a farm in a town of 600. Really, there were not a lot of opportunities, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life. So I thought the military would be a great way to get my education and to get out of a small town. It was my first airplane ride to basic training. So
oh, wow.
It was a wonderful experience.
So you just want to get off the farm, basically.
Absolutely. I was tired of hauling hay and branding calves.
And how was your military experience?
It was wonderful. My first assignment was Osan, Korea, and it was such a shock to the system for someone who had barely left the state of Kansas.
Yeah.
And so it was amazing, though, just the culture and the people and, the camaraderie of being deployed with people that are on a remote tour that nobody has family there. So just you develop bonds and connections like no other. And, of course, then I got married and traveled with another military member. And, it is just one of the best things I could have done. I mean, where else do you get paid to go overseas and have fun?
Yeah, exactly. We're talking to Amy Palmer, President and CEO of Soldiers Angels here on Still a Hero. And how was your transition out, Amy?
That's kind of the reason I ended up in nonprofit. I was med boarded. I had a back injury in Korea, and I was getting treatment for quite a while. And that was back in the day where they didn't keep a lot of people in the military that had injuries like that. Now I probably could have stayed and retired, but back then, med boards were more common for those sorts of injuries. And so I ended up getting med boarded out. But by the time I got notified, I was out in about 60 days. And if I were the primary breadwinner, that would have been traumatic for my family. I had a young child at home. Fortunately, my husband was active duty and he was able to continue that. And I was able to get a part-time job and try to help support the family. But, that's what really drew me to nonprofit, because I thought if other people are in that situation and they're reliant on that income, that's a big adjust to the system if it happens that fast.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a shock to the system and something that you have to deal with maybe for the first time in your life. And so, you've had that routine in the military, you've had a guaranteed paycheck, you've had all of the things that your mission, your purpose, and we hear it all the time. You transition out and you lose all of those things. But let's talk about Soldiers Angels and what you guys do, because it's a myriad of things that you do for veterans, right?
Yeah, so our organization started by supporting deployed. Over the first 10 years, we had over 180,000 volunteers come through our online portal and adopt and send care packages to deployed service members. So you can actually still do that today. Go to our website, register to volunteer, and adopt someone you can search by home state, gender, branch of service, find a service member, and then support them during the deployment with a package and cards and letters during that deployment. Since deployments have drawn down over the last 10 years, we started adding other things that people could still do virtually, because a lot of our folks are scattered across the country and they're not in an area where there's a VA or a base. And so they want to still serve, and they have access to a post office. So we created an adoptive family program for the holidays that they do by mail, virtual baby showers. We created a caregiver program for post 9/11 wounded, ill, and injured. And so those things are all also done through that portal. But at the same time, we started expanding to support veterans through the VA Medical Center. We had all these care package supplies people were still sending, and we couldn't send pallets overseas anymore. So we started taking the tuna and crackers and the fruit cups and all those Slim Jims and started making non-perishable box lunches for homeless veterans. And then we took the travel-sized toiletries and started making hygiene kits for veterans that are hospitalized or on the streets, since the VAs don't often provide those items. So we repurposed a lot of those items, and now we buy and supply those year-round to VA medical centers around the country.
That's so cool, Amy. And, we hear that from time to time where an organization like Soldiers Angels starts out doing one thing, and then you pivot to something else and eventually end up doing two or three different things. But it's all in the name of the deployed and for veterans and their families, right?
Absolutely. You have to shift where the need takes you. And one of the things that we did after that is we did a survey of VA staff and clients to see where there's unmet need. And so we knew we had some money and wanted to be able to figure out where to put that money. And so we added transportation. So we do Uber, Lyft, public transportation, Greyhound services, which is now FlexBus, to get veterans to and from appointments, or if they're transitioning to a VA to another facility and they need transportation, we do that now. We do housing kits for homeless that are housed in HUD-VASH for the first time. So they get all their move-in supplies. We added canteen gift cards so veterans could eat at the VA cafeteria if they couldn't afford to. So VAs can issue those to them from Soldiers Angels. So all those things were created based on need that was identified by clients and even by VA staff.
I know, and we're talking to Amy Palmer here on Still a Hero. She's the president and CEO of Soldiers Angels. And Amy, I know there's also a very big need for veterans that live in rural areas to get to VAs and to have that kind of transportation. So when you're talking Uber and Lyft and those kind of things, that's a lifeline, right?
Absolutely. We work there's a lot of resources for the VAs to use. So DAV has, of course, that great shuttle service, but there are times that it's not available or they can't get to those areas, or the person has a compromised immune system, or that may not be a good option. And so we try to fill those gaps where they are left off by those other services that are available to them. So, we get a lot of the unique cases, and we do get a lot that call the suicide hotline that need to be transported to facilities. And so, we like to fill the gaps where the others are not able to. And like DAV is a great partner, but, they are limited as well. So we fill in where they can't.
Amy, where are we right now in the country in terms of something like food insecurity, and the critical needs and those kind of things for veterans and their families? Where do we stand on that right now? I mean, you're the person to ask.
Yeah, so this year we actually redid our strategic plan, our 3-year plan, and we shifted our vision statement to focus on food first. And so hunger relief is our number one priority right now, just because it is such a need, not just among veterans, but on the active duty population, lower enlisted population. Most of them are eligible for WIC and food stamps and other benefits because of, their family size and their rank. And so we support that population and, of course, veterans. We see a lot of veterans that have not appealed or never received VA disability ratings, or a lot of older veterans that never appealed. They're still at 10 or 20% from 30 years ago. And so those are a lot of times the people that we see for food, but we don't want to just help them with food. We want to get them access to those other services to really look at the root of the problem. And in some ways, we're able to help them find an agency that can help them get those disability ratings up, get Social Security disability if they're not receiving it, find access to other resources as well. So it's just not just about the food, but getting them those resources as well. But we are the largest food provider exclusively to veterans in the U.S. And so, and of course, we added the active duty population as well. And we're actually looking at starting our first food distribution or food pantry near Fort Hood to support a predominantly active duty population. Whereas a lot of our others, like in Atlanta and San Antonio, they see more veteran clients. Fort Hood would see more active active duty, which we're pretty excited about. But we have a lot of new pantries, a lot of food distributions, and of course the gift cards we do in the box lunches are part of our food insecurity program.
No, that's absolutely critical what you guys are doing, Amy. And when you talk about the veterans that you run into with the low disability rating, that's so important to connect them to those service officers and agencies that can help them to get that rating up there. And it's, we talk to veterans all the time that say, I don't know how to navigate this. I don't know how to even start. And I'm sure you run into that a lot.
Absolutely. I was helping a veteran register for food with us from Denver, and he was sending me screenshots of his financials because he didn't know how to get them. He didn't know how to download them. He didn't know how to upload them, and he was sending me screenshots. And I saw his disability rating was 10%, and I asked him about it, and he said, every time I go to the VA, they hand me that packet and tell me I should get a higher rating, but it's this huge packet of information. He said, I don't know anything about it. I don't know what to do with it, and it's just not going to happen. And so we connected him with someone to do it, and he ended up 100% disabled. So he came back and said, I no longer need food. I'm never going to need food assistance again, because he got what he needed. And it took someone helping him, because there was no way he was going to do that and fill that out and understand it and know where to get it and what was, fair and proper. And so without those service organizations, there's people like him that would definitely fall through the cracks.
Yeah. And how many veterans have you helped that end up becoming volunteers for Soldiers Angels?
Oh, many. We get many folks that either receive food before and don't need it anymore that volunteer, or even actively participating in our programs that come and volunteer. And, it's great because they understand the needs of the other folks. And especially when people see that they were just in line and now they're helping, really, it makes them feel special about it, that they don't feel like that, they're getting a handout. They really feel like it's a thank you for your service, which makes them really feel good about it, to have those conversations and to be able to share those experiences with each other.
Oh man, that is so cool. That's that full circle moment, that you're talking about. And can you give us another example, Amy? I love the stories. Another example of a family maybe that Soldiers Angels helped, where it was a very special situation.
We have one that sticks out. That was actually last year. We had a pop-up food distribution with NASCAR at the Daytona 500, and we were working with Kroger Racing Team, and they were providing food, and we had it at the Daytona VA clinic, and we had a veteran come through the line that had said he was going to commit suicide. And the VA came out, got him registered, got him admitted, and got him the care that he needed. And so, it changed his trajectory there completely. We also launched a food distribution in DC last year, and we had a veteran come through on his bicycle with his cart, and we sat down and spoke to him, and someone from our team sat on the curb and they had a conversation with him, and he was in tears. He said, people don't understand him, and people don't understand, how hard it is for people with injuries and unseen injuries to navigate life, especially in markets like DC. And, he says it's really tough, and to try to support his family and feel like he's, being a man and stepping up for his family, but having to come and get food. And he just sat and cried on the curb and talked about how thankful he was, and to be able to get that food and to be able to show up. And, we got that on video, and we show that video, and it's just, every time I watch it, it's just such a great impact to see the difference that we're able to make for people like him.
I was going to say, how gratifying is that to see firsthand some, that kind of impact in a person that you're helping. We're talking to Amy Palmer here, still a hero, president and CEO of Soldiers Angels. And I know that you also serve on the VA National Advisory Council. Why is that important to you?
Yeah, so when we were shifting some of our focus to shift from supporting the deployed to adding the veteran component, joining the National Advisory Council was a real big deal for us, because it kind of put us in the space where we could build relationships with VAs directly. And, it's one of the reasons we're able to work with such a small staff, because like with transportation and those other services, the VA social workers have already vetted that the need exists and are able to book the rides without us having to revet them. And so that really cuts out a lot of need for additional staff and puts the money back into the programs when we're able to do that. And so that relationship with the VA and being on the National Advisory Council really helps with that. And our volunteers can get badges to work in VAs as uncompensated employees. So they can go in and visit patients and do donuts and coffee and provide lunches and all those things in VA medical centers. So it, gives us access to the population that we want to serve without having to really do a lot of outreach in the field to find them. They're easily identified through those settings. But the other great thing about being on the National Advisory Council is we get to really be a part of change and improvements in the VA and things that will help service to our veterans. And so, there's lots of things that we look at, like how long it takes for volunteers to get badged and processed, and the roles volunteers can fill, and all of those sorts of things, and donations and how they get directed through the VAs. That really helps us as an organization, but also helps the other service organizations that serve in the VAs as well.
So, everything you're talking about here, it takes a lot of not just logistical support, but it also takes a lot of volunteers. So what is the best way that not just veterans, but civilians can step up and help Soldiers Angels?
Yeah, so we love volunteers, whether they're virtual or local. There's so much opportunity to volunteer with us at soldiersangels.org. There's a big banner for volunteerism right at the top, and they can register and create a profile. They'll be assigned a volunteer coordinator that will help them kind of navigate the system, whether they want to do virtual or local or some of both. So there's so many opportunities to serve there. But people can also donate online. If they don't have time to volunteer and want to donate, they can go to soldiersangels.org, donate online, mail donations. They can also donate in-kind items, where we do a lot of different collection drives throughout the year, from things for canine units to care packages to socks for veterans. Holiday stockings will be coming up where they can pack stockings for the troops. So there's lots of great ways to engage, even donating food for pantries. They can do that through Amazon as well and send items to any of our pantries. So there's a lot of ways. We want to make sure that there are many ways for people, depending on where they are and what their limitations are and what their abilities are, to serve with us.
That is so cool. Soldiers Angels is doing such a great job for so many people. And Amy, thank you for the work that you're doing. You are still a hero.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for being with us here on Still a Hero, powered by USAA. Make sure you join us next time for another great conversation about leaders who are now leading in different ways around the country.